Now we'll switch to English because our next speaker is from Switzerland, from Zurich.
Yes.
And it's better to talk English than German, I think. So
Swiss German.
Swiss German.
Said, yeah.
No, thanks. So I would like to introduce you to Laurent. Laurent is Microsoft Regional Director, works for IdentityMine. And I might call him perhaps a gadget freak, but he has a lot.
It's fair enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And well, take it away, Laurent.
All right. Thank you so much for the intro, and I really want to thank you for welcoming me here. It was really cool flying with a big bag of devices and going through security in Zurich Airport. But I think they know me now, so when they see me arrive, they say, "Oh, here's a freak again." Anyway. So I will speak to you about a topic which is a little bit different from what I usually speak about. And I don't know, maybe some of you saw me in the past. I spoke a few times at Tech Days in the Netherlands, in The Hague. In my memory, it was in Rotterdam, but I was corrected at lunch. And good thing. So I know it's not the same at all, right? It's like Zurich and Bern, they hate each other. So I don't know if it's the same here. But anyway. So I'm going to talk to you about something which is a little bit different. Usually I like to speak about software code and patterns and MVVM and all these things. And here we are going to talk almost from a sociological point of view, how devices change us and how we change with devices and how society is evolving in this regard. So I hope you like it. A few words about my firm. I work for a company called IdentityMine. We are now part of a group called Valorem Consulting. And we work with a lot of UX. User experience is really our craft. We work on all possible platforms, but we really love native development. And so we do a lot of developments with Windows, Xamarin. We also do other things, but this is really where our expertise lies. And I have to say we really love devices, and I think that one of the nicest things that I experienced at IdentityMine in the 8 years that I worked in this firm is really how software is coming out of the computer. And it's not just a desktop thing anymore, but now we build software for really devices and everything, right? And so mobile definitely plays a role here, but also other things, right? Like smartwatches, and now we have IoT, and we have all kinds of things. And a few words about myself. Like Marcel said, my name is Laurent Bugnion. I live in Zurich. I come from the western side of Switzerland, hence my French accent, or at least I hear that sometimes. And I've been developing software for more than 20 years now. I am a Microsoft MVP for 10 years, Microsoft Regional Director for a few years, and Xamarin MVP as well. So I work with a lot of cross-platform, as you can imagine. I'm also the author of the MVVM Lite Toolkit, which you might have used if you do XAML or Xamarin development. It's a fairly popular open source toolkit. So devices are everywhere, and more, or at least it's the feeling that we have, right? And there is also a lot of fear around that. And you hear people worrying about privacy, and you hear people worrying about, the singularity. Or is software going to take over the world? Are robots going to take over the world? Even very serious people like Stephen Hawking talk about the singularity. Or you might have heard that Elon Musk, the famous inventor, creator of PayPal, and then of a lot of other things like Tesla, amongst other things, said once that he thinks that we might live in a computer simulation and maybe a computer game, and there are arguments for it. And of course, the media is crazy about that. They love it because fear sells paper, right? And so people who are in fear buy papers, and of course, it's a good deal. So I want to try to come from the other approach and show you a little bit, and I'm not dismissing those fears, by the way. Privacy is an important topic. I'm not saying it's not, and God knows that I don't want to serve robots. So I'm sure the singularity is also something that we need to take care of. But basically what I want to say is there are also good things into that, right? And I think that we are evolving, and I don't like extremes, and so I want to try to bring a little bit of hope. Hopefully. So we have a feeling that software is everywhere and devices are everywhere. When I started working for a company which then was acquired by Siemens, and that was 20 years ago, and we were building home automation software. And specifically, I started to work on something called HVAC, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning. And so you also, these type of devices in your hotel room maybe or anywhere, they look very simple. There is a knob for the set point of the temperature. There is a hole. Inside the hole, there is a sensor. Typically, we measure temperature and sometimes also humidity, air pressure, these kind of things. Now, even though this device looks quite simple, 20 years ago, we were already digitalizing the information into ones and zeros, sending it through a bus, not just copper wires, but a real bus, to the seller. And then you had these type of devices, and those were the ones that I was programming, not exactly this model, but very similar. Nowadays, they look different, they look nicer, but same thing, right? Those are very specialized computer, and basically what they do, they get the information from all the rooms, and then they send another signal, they calculate, a curve, and they send another signal to yet another device, which is called a magnetic valve, and there are some magnets which can open or close a stream of hot water. This water goes into an air conditioning plant, prepares the air, which is then sent to your room. That was 20 years ago and still now, right? So it's fairly complex, right? So I guess the main difference really, it's not really that there are more devices, it's really that everybody nowadays can use those devices. Now back then you had to be an engineer or an architect, okay? And if you wanted to renovate your house and make it, do the home automation thing, you had to open your walls, and it was very complicated. Nowadays, we see devices which are a lot easier to use. And so anybody can pretty much install a home automation system. You have a few things. First of all, those devices talk together a lot easier than before because they are using standards. Okay. Also wireless, of course, if you don't have to open your walls, but those devices, a sensor can communicate with the controller without wires, it's a lot easier. So there are a few factors, but basically it's not to say that nowadays we invented much, right? It's just that it's popularized, so we have a lot more people using that. Now if we go even further in time, those are computers which were used by NASA to send people to the moon. So the one on the left is a big computer. It was in Houston on the ground, and only a handful of people could use them, all right? And those computers were used to calculate trajectories, so complex things, and sending people to the moon is a big operation. And the one on the right is even more interesting. It's a computer which was into the lunar module, and basically calculating trajectories to help people to land on the moon and then to start again, because apparently starting again is at least as important as landing there, I suppose. So I understand that. So those computers are pretty fascinating. They are critical, mission critical, right? And there is, of course, a famous saying, you might have heard it, which says that if you take the amount of power, of computing power of all the computers that were used to send people to the moon, we actually have more power in our pocket in a single mobile phone or smartphone, right? And I guess it's quite fascinating to think that every one of us, I'm going to assume that every one of us has a mobile phone, every one of us has more power in the pocket than NASA used in the days, right, in '69. And what do we do with that? Well, basically, that's pretty much what we do, right? But there is hope, because sometimes we do that. And so, it goes a little bit more into the direction of NASA. But all jokes aside, those devices are fascinating. They are not just used for the computing power, but they are also, at my fingertip, I have the sum of all human knowledge, because I can connect to the internet, right? And it changes the way that we act. When my kids ask me a question, they don't judge me about the way, I would say my skill is not, can I answer their question? My skill is, can I find the answer to the question, right? And, it changes the way that we work a lot, right? And since I have a little bit more time, I can tell you an anecdote. My daughter just came back from camp, and they did it's not really a race, but basically they went trekking, and they had groups, and then you have to follow places, and you have a map, and then you have to follow and find the places. And so I told her, oh, so you use a paper map and a compass, which is what I did. And she said, no, we had Google Maps, right? And it's fascinating to see that the skills are changing. And in retrospect, it's actually correct. So the school didn't do a bad job, right? They actually did the right thing, because nowadays it's more important for this generation to know how to use Google Maps or Bing Maps or whatever float your boats than to use a paper map and a compass, okay? So anyway, just let's close the anecdote. So I have the sum of human knowledge at my fingertip, and also GPS, right? I can know exactly where I am, meter precise, and not just where I am, but also where I need to go. And that is a life-changing experience. I remember in the days, I had my first Palm device in '96, I believe, or something like that. So pretty much 20 years ago. About 15 years ago, I bought a GPS module for the Palm. And you remember Palm, or do I have to explain? Okay, you do. Good. So that was a long time ago, right? And so I had a GPS module which was connecting over Bluetooth. That was pretty advanced, and TomTom was doing that. I heard TomTom before. That's what I understood. That and that you have your birthday, so happy birthday. So I had this module, and it really changed my life, because back then I was already traveling quite a lot. I was going to Chicago very often for Siemens. And I never dared to rent a car, because I was really afraid. I would land there at night mostly. Sometimes it was raining, and I had to drive an hour to go in the suburb. And I thought, oh my God, if I rent a car and I take the wrong exit, I'm going to be lost and never to be found again. So when I took this module and put it on my dashboard in the car that I had just rented the first time, and I saw the blue light turn green, telling me I know where I am, that was such a good feeling, right? That was such a relief. Because suddenly I knew that, okay, even if I take the wrong exit, it doesn't matter. It's going to bring me back to my correct destination. And since then, I've been renting cars. Pretty much every time I go somewhere, I rent a car. I'm not afraid anymore. I've been driving using GPS in the jungle in Malaysia. I drove in Manila, of all places. My God, you have to know where you want to go. I drove in Sicily. It's as bad as Manila, pretty much. I drove in the US, in the desert, in Las Vegas, and in New York City, and everywhere, right? And it's fine. And plus, also, there is the conflict factor, right? When you have somebody next to you who tells you have to turn right, and you cannot turn right because there is a car, and then you don't know where you need to go, it's really a source of conflict. So the GPS doesn't mind. If she tells me turn right, I don't, she recalculates, right? Well, I say she because I have a female voice in my car. And I tried to get her to tell me, turn right, dumbass, but apparently it doesn't work. So, she's very, very calm. So anyway, just to say that we have this amazing power. And Pokemon Go is an interesting game which uses a lot more of the power of the mobile phone than anything else before, right? Actually, not than anything else before, because it's inspired from a game called Ingress, which already existed. But Pokemon Go is such, everybody was playing Pokemon Go, now a little bit less, but it was really crazy during the summer. And that uses GPS, that uses internet, it uses your battery a lot, apparently. But it also uses a camera, to place items in the real world. So there is this augmented reality factor, which is really interesting. And that's something which makes me happy, because games always shape, the technology for the future, right? What we use to program nowadays on computers is DirectX. DirectX was created for games. Augmented reality, pretty much games, right? Pokemon Go is really bringing us in that direction. So, cool advance, right? But still, we have those devices, and now we try to make them also smaller, and we call that wearables. And so Google Glass is a good example. And Google Glass is, I guess it's fair to call it a failed experiment, right? It didn't really take off the world. And I think that the main reason is probably that Google was too early with that. And the society was not ready for it. And there was a feeling that people having a Google Glass were a little bit arrogant, that they were a little bit augmented. And then there was a privacy concern. What is he doing now? I'm not sure, right? People didn't understand the technology, and so they had fear. Okay, and there are some cases where there was some violence, right? People took over the glass and threw it on the floor. And there is even one case where the guy was, unfortunately for him, he was an experimental guy, a geek, etc. And he had the device actually implanted. And it's a famous case in France where an employee at McDonald's actually took it off, and the guy had to go to a hospital because of that, right? So there was this kind of conflict where some people wearing the glass were perceived as arrogant and a little bit augmented, and the others were, feeling a little bit less augmented, I guess. And so, of course, society needs to evolve, right? And it is evolving. I have an anecdote. Back then, when I was using my Palm, I was once in the bus in Switzerland, and in Switzerland, people don't really talk much, especially in the bus, right? We kind of keep to each other. But a lady came to me, and I was reading a book. So I had it was before Kindle, right? So I had my whole book collection on that, and lady came, and she said, "I'm sorry, can I ask you what you're doing? Because you're staring at your device, you're not moving." And nowadays, nobody would ask me that, because nowadays it's accepted that you can stare at a device and not move, and people won't ask you what you do. But back then, it was not, right? So when I say society is changing, it's what I mean, right? Our behaviors are changing. And it's actually probably rude if you go and ask somebody, "Hey, what are you looking at on your phone," right? I mean, we wouldn't do that. So it's kind of interesting that we have a whole different social standards in 15 years, which is, at the scale of humanity, it's really short, right? So society is changing. So maybe we are more ready to accept wearables, but also we have more discrete wearables like smartwatches, right? And so I have one here. When I talk to somebody, it is, I would say, socially more acceptable to quickly glance at my watch when it vibrates because I have a notification to see, is it important or not? Though maybe the person feels that I'm bored and I'm checking, do I need to go, right? So there is also that. But I mean, it's more acceptable, definitely, than to wear a Google Glass, okay? So society is changing, devices are changing as well. So it's kind of interesting. And those devices are pretty fascinating. They are packed with technology. So, when I forget my phone at home, I feel horrible. I feel that I'm missing a limb, right? It's like I leave my hand at home, basically. And I would totally go back home. I mean, first of all, I almost never forget my phone. But if I do, I will go and get it. My wallet, I don't care. I can live a whole day without money. I did that many times. And if I have to buy a train ticket, I can buy it from my phone. And in fact, I even bought a new case for my phone, specifically with a slot for my debit card. I shouldn't show that too much, but because if I forget my wallet at home, I have my phone, I can take money, right? In some places, you can even pay with a phone, so it's okay. In Switzerland, it's not that widespread yet, so I have, the debit card. The wallet, I don't care. If I don't have an ID, I can survive. If I don't have cash, it's fine, But the phone, no. And so the phone is really kind of augmenting me, right? I miss it when I don't have it. And there is a word for that, right? People who are augmented by technology, we call them cyborgs. So in fact, even though we don't wear implants, we have something on us pretty much at all times, maybe except at night, though I wear my watch my band to sleep because it measures my sleep, etc. So at all times, I would say. And so we are cybernetic organisms, all right? Now, unfortunately, in my case, it looks rather like that, but maybe there's a hope for me anyway. So devices are fascinating. We use them to augment ourselves. And of course, we need to put software on those. Software is interesting. And of course, artificial intelligence is fascinating. And just to be clear, Cortana, Siri, Google Now are not artificial intelligence, right? They have scripts. They have actors reading those scripts. They have writers writing those scripts. So it's not intelligence, right? But it is good enough to fake it that it kind of gives us a glimpse of where we are going, right? So it's interesting to study those. And by the way, I'm going to show a lot of examples and demos using Microsoft technologies because I'm inside that space. But everything I tell you is true from Google, Facebook, Apple, everything, right? So Cortana is an interesting experiment if you try communicating with her. And by the way, I say her, because her personality is clearly female, right? On purpose, probably. And you kind of get attached at some point, right? And she's funny, She has a personality. She's, the animations. Here we don't see it, but I show you later. It's kind of jumpy a little bit and kind of fun. And also you can a little bit converse with her. So we are still in the beginning of that, but there is a conversation going on. So they were very clever also with the name, right? The name comes from a video game, Halo. And this is the same actor who was playing Cortana in Halo, who is now reading the script, right? So there is a personality going on. And it's interesting to observe. So basically, with all that, right, what we see is that tomorrow is here today. And we use technology these days that is better than what we saw in science fiction movies a few years ago. Think about Minority Report, right? You remember this movie? It's with Tom Cruise, right? And then he's using, there is a famous sequence where he's using a glass display and then he's using his hand to navigate. If you watch the movie, he's actually wearing a glove. Nobody wants to wear a glove to use software. We have Kinect. Why do we need a glove? Right? We have touchless interfaces. So we have stuff now which is better than the best things that people imagined just a few years ago. Or watch Star Trek for that matter, right? The technology they use looks antiquated, even though it's supposed to happen in the future. So this is quite fascinating. Now I would like to show you a trailer of a movie. It's called Her. I don't know if some of you saw it. If you did, I hope it reminds you. If you didn't, I hope you like it. Because it's quite a fascinating glimpse into the future. So let's watch. And since I love risk, and since we are talking about Cortana, I'm going to use Cortana to show you the trailer. So let's try, okay? Hey, Cortana. Show me the trailer for Her.
Here's what I found for her.
All right, sorry, the volume was not on. So now I could start watching, okay? But it's very small, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cheat. I'm open the browser, and then I'm going to show it to you in full screen. So that's a really beautiful movie, and of course it opens the door to a lot of questions, right? I mean, are we going to fall in love with virtual beings? Well, I would argue that it happens already. Let me take an example. You might have heard, some people go online, they chat, and then they find somebody, and it's actually a scammer who pretends being somebody else and tries to get them to fall in love, and then eventually get some money from them, right? So you have people who fall in love. Now, we might argue that maybe it's not real love, but it doesn't matter. To them, it is real, with a personality who doesn't exist, right? So it's not that different, really. And again, I want to stress that Cortana is not artificial intelligence, Siri is not, Google Now is not, right? But they kind of give us a glimpse. And I want to show you a few demos with Cortana just so you see an idea. So we are going to try something very easy at first. Hey, Cortana. Hey, Cortana. Great. So if Hey, Cortana doesn't work, let me just check the recording. Should be good. Yes, okay. Hey, Cortana? No. All right, so we are going to cheat. We are going to do like that. What is the weather like this week in Celsius?
The forecast shows sun with highs up to the low 20s.
So that's easy. I ask a simple question, direct, she answers, no problem. Now let's try something a little bit more complicated. Do I need an umbrella tomorrow? Yes?
You shouldn't have to bring one. Here's the forecast for tomorrow.
So that is really more complicated because I asked her a question which was not really directly related to the weather. So at some point there is a context which somebody, a programmer, inferred from my question, right? Now we can also set reminders, and reminders are really pretty cool. So set a reminder.
Sure. What do you want to remember?
Go to the airport.
When would you like to be reminded?
Tomorrow, 6 a.m.
When did you want to be reminded?
Cancel. I'm going to cancel because sometimes she doesn't get the time correct. All right. Let's try something else. So I can tell her set a reminder and then set a time. Now time is really easy, very much more interesting. Oh, and by the way, since I'm logged into Windows with my Windows account, this is going to synchronize to all my devices. So if I set a reminder on my Surface, it's going to ring on my phone as well, right? So let's try something else. When I get to the airport, remind me to buy some chocolate.
Sure thing. Remind you when you get to airport. There's a London Stansted Airport on Enterprise House, Bossingburn Road in London. Is this the one you want?
No.
Tap on the one you want. Okay, I can remind you to buy some chocolate when you get to Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. Is that right?
Yes.
Got it.
So what did I do? I just had a small conversation with a virtual being, right? She remembered the context of the previous question. Now the London is funny. It might be because I'm connected to internet through a router somewhere, I don't know, right? So basically on this surface, I don't have a GPS, so she infers my location from the IP, which per se is quite interesting because if I ask the exact same question in Zurich, she's going to tell me, okay, next time you're in Zurich airport, you have to do something. So context is super important. And since I set a location-based reminder, and my phone has a GPS, when I reach Amsterdam Schiphol, you say? Schiphol, right? It's going to ring and tell me, hey, you need to buy some chocolate, okay? So I can tell her things like, when I get home, remind me to do something, all right? And because she knows where my home is, it's going to work. I can tell her things like, if next time I speak to my dad, remind me to tell him something. And when my dad calls, because I told her who my dad is, next time my dad calls me or send me an SMS or send me an email, she's going to remind me, hey, you need to say that, right? So it's pretty cool. Now, of course, there are also a few things like, for example, personality, right? I said you saw the small animations and all that. It gives a certain personality, but also, let's try. Tell me a joke.
A man walks into a library and asks, "Can I have a cheeseburger?" The librarian says, "Sir, this is a library." The man says, "Can I have a cheeseburger?"
Now, the funny thing with those jokes, there are two things which are really funny. The first one is that it's totally useless, okay? From a software standpoint, from a usability standpoint, it's totally useless. But it serves a purpose, which is to give a funny personality to Cortana. They try to make her likable, okay? And the joke is stupid. And that's on purpose. It's like those dad jokes that we have, right? I mean, my kids keep telling me, oh, you keep telling dad jokes. But yeah, because it's what we do, right? We say stupid jokes. And we find them hilarious. Nobody else does, but it doesn't matter, right? It's kind of a personality trait. Are you better than Siri?
I think we're both pretty clever.
Now this one is funny because every time it's a different answer. And last time I tried, she said it's like comparing apples to Windows, which I thought was really clever. So anyway, Cortana, she deserves an applause, I guess. Thank you. So Cortana is really fascinating, and I cannot recommend you enough to try either Cortana. There is Cortana also for iOS and Android, so if you have an iOS or Android phone, you can try it out. The voice recognition is fascinating. Here, the Hey Cortana didn't work too well, but there is a big room, and then the acoustics is different. You hear that I'm not a native English speaker. She gets me every time, so it's quite fascinating, really. And in fact, and again, since I have a little bit more time, I talked to the team, Cortana team, and I told them, oh, it's amazing how well you learn my way of speaking. Because I have a feeling that when I started using Cortana, she didn't get me, and now she gets me better and better. And the guy laughed and told me, actually, we don't have that feature. It's not her who learns, it's me, So you try things, and then you see, oh, it doesn't work, and then you try something else and it works, and then you learn, right? So it's funny. I was sure that she was learning, but she doesn't. See, it's just you, right? So it's kind of funny. So anyway, you know, those devices need accessories, and so accessories are probably as important as devices. And in fact, I posted a picture on Twitter and Facebook showing all the devices that I took to come here. And somebody commented and said, oh my God, half of that is cables. And it's true, we need so many cables and accessories. And so of course we are all very happy to see wireless more and more important, right? And so wireless is not new, okay? We have Wi-Fi, of course, we all have Bluetooth. Bluetooth is pretty old. I remember back then at Siemens when I was building those devices that I showed you, it was probably more than 10 years ago, we talked about, hey, should we put Bluetooth in those? And it was clearly not the right choice, but I mean, there was a discussion. So wireless is not new, and of course, some people try to tell you that they do wireless better than others. I don't take camps here. Personally, I tend to believe that standards are better than proprietary, but that's my own thing. Anyway, it's a sign, right? We are trying to get rid of cables. We are trying to get that, and you saw in the movie. The guy was having an earpiece, right? And so he was communicating with his device, his phone, without wires. And it's true that it's pretty cool. So wireless goes further than just for audio. We have, for example, Miracast. So this is a Microsoft stick that you can use, Microsoft Display Stick. But Miracast is a standard. You have it even in some TVs out of the box, so you don't even need an adapter. And basically, it's HDMI without cables. So that's pretty cool, because then you can share your screen with a TV screen in your room, or with a projector without cables. It works fairly well without too many glitches, so it's really nice. We have other things. Braggy Dash is an interesting experiment. Now, I didn't try those, and I have to warn you, I heard that the execution was maybe a little bit problematic sometimes. Maybe they are a little bit too early. But basically, with Braggy Dash, it's not just about audio, but they give you also a whole set of gestures and voice command to control your phone. And so we go a little bit in the direction of the movie Her. Or if you don't want to spend a lot of money, I have those. I paid them, I think, $30, if I remember correctly. And they are good enough for what I do, which is biking and running. And sorry about that. And previous. And they are really pretty good. The battery life is okay, and I can use those to communicate with Cortana, right? I just have to press a button, and then I can speak to my phone. If I get a text, for example, she tells me, hey, you got a text, do you want me to read it? If I say yes, she reads it. Do you want to reply? Yes, and then I can dictate my reply. So, wireless is really important. Those devices are quite important. And we see a lot of devices coming to us. Well, Kinect is not super new, and unfortunately, I feel that it doesn't have the career that it deserves, because it's really a fascinating set of technology, right? And we use it quite a lot for, to use computers without touch. That can be super important. Think about the surgeon in an operating room who needs to check something on a computer, but of course he cannot touch anything because he's sterile, okay? HoloLens also goes into that direction, by the way. Think about, the factory floor. People have dirty hands and they cannot touch the screen because it wouldn't even work because of the fat and the dust and all that. Or even just in your, you're baking and then you have flour on your hand and then it doesn't quite work, right? And then you want to check the next page of the recipe. So voice, no touch, right? That's a good way to go. So Kinect is pretty cool. Now, if you go on sites like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, they are crowd-funded projects. So basically, anybody can pledge $50, $100, whatever, and then make the project progress. You see all kinds of interesting projects. Now, this one is called Emotive. You wear it on your head, and then it's going to detect your brain waves and use it to do some kind of crude control of a computer. And it can also detect, with the black thing there, it can also detect the current in my face muscles and know if I'm unhappy or if I'm happy, right? If I'm smiling or if I'm frowning. This one is a Mayo. My good friend Billy Hollis has one, and he said he really likes it. I have to say I tried it once. I don't own one, but it's pretty good. You have an accelerometer inside, so it's going to detect gestures that I do with my hand. You wear it on your wrist. Or it's going to also know if I have 5 fingers open, 2, this kind of thing, using the electrical current again. So again, another way to control computers. Of course, VR, right? So Oculus belongs to Facebook, as you might know. HTC Vive, those are very beefy systems made at the moment, or at least originally, especially for gaming. But it's a good thing because gaming is bringing innovation to our industry like crazy, okay? So those are super complex systems. They are fairly expensive. You need a big computer with a cable, okay? But you also have other things like Google Card. I love Google Card. I love the idea of Google Card because it costs literally nothing to produce. And everybody has a phone, and so you put it inside, and then you have your super cheap virtual reality, okay? And you have all the systems like Samsung Gear who are better realized, but basically the same idea. You have a mobile phone, and then you have kind of a headset that you can wear, all right? We start seeing, if you travel, you start seeing them in the planes, watching movies and isolated, which, by the way, is probably the best use case for VR. Being in a plane is the occasion where you really don't want to know that there are people around you, right? So VR is quite fascinating. And then we see also a lot of form factors. Like those are, do you know what this is? It's actually a computer on a stick. So it's super small. You plug it into an HDMI port, it's going to power, and then you have Bluetooth, you have Wi-Fi, you have USB ports. So you can put, if you have a USB keyboard or a USB mouse, or of course you can connect them with Bluetooth. And then you can work. You have Windows 10 on those. You can work on that. And then after that, when you're done, you unplug it, you go back home, you plug it at home, and then you have the same computer, right? It's not the same environment. It's the same computer physically. So a lot of different form factors. And devices are changing a lot, right? I mean, is my smartphone a phone? Well, definitely not. The amount of time I spend calling on this device is in the single-digit %. I do a lot of things with that. I check my email, I watch videos, I chat, I find my way using GPS, etc. It's definitely not a phone, right? Is that a watch? Well, probably not. Well, they say smartwatch, but smartphone, smartwatch, same thing, right? It's not really a watch, right? It has a heart rate monitor, it has a lot of things. So devices are changing and evolving and communicating together a lot more. And of course, we have HoloLens. And I'm not going to talk about HoloLens right now because I have more things to show you, but this is just a teaser, like we say. So let me talk about another type of device, wearable. So this is a Microsoft Band. Unfortunately, at the time, nobody really knows where it's going, right? It's another one of those weird things. But I really love my Band. And I think everybody who has one really likes it. It's packed with technology. It works with iOS, Android, and Windows. And this is fascinating, the amount of technology they put into this thing. So you have a GPS on board, about more than a year before Apple, or I think 2 years before Apple, we had a GPS on our bands. And it works great. So basically, I can leave my phone at home if I go biking or jogging, right? It will record my path, and it's working great. You have a heart rate sensor. You have a UV sensor. So basically, it tells me if there is a lot of light, hey, maybe a lot of sun, maybe you should put some solar cream. There is a barometer inside. And so since there is a barometer, there is also an altimeter. So it's going to know if I'm climbing or going down, right? So it tells me how many stairs I climbed using this sensor. And of course, there is also an accelerometer. So I want to show you something, quick demo. And basically, the idea here is to say that those devices we also use them in ways that they were never intended to. And this is all thanks to the SDKs, right? The software makers, in that case Microsoft, is giving us SDKs and APIs that we can use as coders. And so I have access to all the sensors on the device, and I can misuse them for stuff that they were not really meant to do. And so the quick demo I want to show you, it's a small application that I made for fun. Basically, this is a DirectX cube, okay? My colleague René Schulte did that. And then I connected it to the band. So now I'm using my band as a way to control my computer. No hands, huh? I don't cheat, okay? And it's working almost without latency, which is really fascinating. So it's communicating the accelerometer data over Bluetooth. It's shaking a little bit because I'm nervous when I speak to people. but also because I didn't implement a low-pass filter, which I probably should, because the accelerometer is super sensitive, and so every movement of my hand is detected. So it's just a short example, but to show you that nowadays with all those devices, you can take them, you can access them via software. It's very easy to program for the band and do things that they were not really meant to do. All right, so now I'm going to do something that I discussed with the technician before. I'm going to unplug my HDMI, and I'm going to plug it into another device. Here we go. I have power, yes. Okay, did I have to press here again? No. Okay, why is it not working? Let me see. I'm going to unplug it and plug it again, right? That's what we do in the software industry. Okay, here we go. So now, all right. So now I can do something which is super scary when you're a presenter. I'm going to actually put my laptop to sleep. I don't need my laptop anymore. Why not? Because I'm projecting from my phone now. So what you see is something called the Windows Continuum. And I have a mouse. You see, it's working. I have a Bluetooth keyboard here. It's super small, but basically it's a Bluetooth keyboard. I can use any Bluetooth keyboard. I can use any Bluetooth mouse as well. And now I'm projecting from my phone. And so I'm using my phone just like I would use a computer. So again, right, this difference between phone and computer, it's blurred nowadays. And you will see that the applications are even reacting in the correct way. So for example, if I start PowerPoint here, this is actually showing me PowerPoint in the PC version, even though it's running on my phone, right? So it's pretty cool. So let me show you a couple of slides, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Continuum. So Continuum is like that. You plug your phone into an HDMI port, and then it knows that it has more real estate, and the applications adapt. That's the idea of the Windows 10 universal world. So you can do that with multiple manners. You can use what I have here. This is called the Continuum dock. It's a small box. And you have to plug it into power. So it's a little bit annoying if I take it to a client. I need a power adapter. So usually this one, I leave it at home. It's on my home desk, home office desk. Like this, I can plug my phone and start working. If I go to a client, usually I take something else. So for example, I can take this. It's a small device like that. This one doesn't need any power. It's going to take power from the phone. There is an HDMI port and 2 USB ports. And so I can plug, for example, a USB stick and have access to more data. I can connect to HDMI and project. So that's working great. If I want, I can plug it into power, and then it's going to charge my phone, but I don't have to. So this one is great for clients. If you have a presentation like half an hour, okay, you can basically leave your laptop at home. Other solutions using wireless, because it also supports Miracast. So like I said, Miracast is a standard. Now that's a Microsoft display stick, but you can use any Miracast standard, it's going to work. And some TVs already have that integrated. Or this device is pretty cool. I took one here because, of course, I had to buy one. So this is a laptop, okay? You know how much I paid for it? $300? Jeez, you're crazy, man. I don't have that kind of money, man. It cost me $79 because I was an early bird, and I heard 99. You know that it's $99 now because if you're not an early bird, it's $20 more. Now, it has a catch. It doesn't do anything on its own. It's not really a laptop. It's a Continuum dock with an integrated screen, all right? I can plug my phone, and then it's going to do that, but except on the laptop, right? So I need my phone to power it. Now, if you don't have a Windows mobile, shame on you, but you can also use an Android and iOS. It's going to mirror the phone, which I guess is, it's not really great. It's just a mirror. But, at least you have an idea of what we can do. Boom. Anyway, so that device, thank you. That device here has a full-blown keyboard, and a trackpad that I can use over Bluetooth, okay? It even has a battery inside, so I can charge my phone. And it has also a micro SD, it has a few things, right? If I connect it to my Surface, I can use it as a second monitor, which is also a cool usage, okay? So, I mean, you know, what else do you want, right? Ideal for students. You're a student, you go to university, you can type on your full-blown keyboard. You're done, you unplug it, you leave it in your locker. You go back home with your phone where you have all your data, no need to synchronize with the cloud or anything. Everything is on the phone. At home, you maybe have another screen that you can connect and then continue working, right? So pretty cool device. And that's also a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, I forget. I think it was Indiegogo, this one. I spend way too much money on those things. All right, so Continuum is pretty cool. So let me show you a couple of things. So what I'm going to do is stop the presentation here. And so down there, I have the Windows menu. And this is my phone's Windows menu. All the applications which are lit up are the ones that I can use in this mode. The other ones are the ones that are not Windows 10 universal applications, and so you need to use them on the phone only. I can open my calendar, and that's going to show me the desktop view of my calendar, but this is my phone's calendar, okay? So I have the whole week, for example. I can open, for example, Twitter. Like this is Uber, this is Facebook, this is Twitter. And so like I said, since I had my Bluetooth keyboard, I can go and set a new tweet here, and then I can type, hello Amsterdam, enter. Oh, I need to press the button down there. Oops, where is my mouse? Here. Tweet, and boom, okay? So I used my keyboard and my mouse to do that. I didn't touch my phone to do that. So pretty cool. Yeah, there are tons of things. What made me really happy is that Plex now is now a Windows 10 universal application. So Plex is a media player which is connecting to my server at home. And it means that I can watch my movies or my TV shows in big screen over my phone, which is really nice. So thank you, Plex, for doing a universal application for that. It's the latest one I have on my phone, I believe. So that is pretty cool. Okay, let's go back to the slides. Whoops. And let's talk about something else. So Microsoft HoloLens is a fascinating device. It is completely integrated, no cables. It's actually a Windows 10 computer. So I'm logged into this device with my Windows 10 account, and I have access to all my data, for example, in OneDrive, my calendar, and everything. Okay? It has those cameras in front that we barely see. Those are actually Kinect version 3 or 4, and they are going to map the room and detect the environment. It knows that there is something here. It knows there is a floor. It knows there is a ceiling, some walls, and it can interact with those, okay? It has also those speakers here, and those small speakers are actually able to create what they call spatial sound. So it's going to be able to pinpoint sound in a specific location, for example, on a hologram. And when I turn my head, the sound is going to be behind me. Okay, so I can know if something is coming behind me, which of course is super important because it's a way to notify the user that something is happening. All right? You can do pretty amazing thing with that. It has a battery integrated, no ventilators, right? It has also hard drive integrated and everything. You can program for it using DirectX. So anything which programs to DirectX is going to work, Direct 3D. So for example, we use Unity, which is probably what most people do these days. And I'm going to show you, of course, a few demos. So what I'm going to do now is stop the presentation, and I'm going to start an application. Oh, I didn't think that there is actually a hologram in front of the screen, which is blocking my view, but it's fine. I got it. All right, so now I'm going to start this. Hopefully it will find it. Am I connected? Tripmate, yes, and Tripmate, yes. Okay, so no. Let's try again. What's happening now? Okay, so I'm going to do what we also do, which is restart the application. All right, look at that. Okay, so I'm going to stream, and you're going to see what I see, including the holograms, but you're going to see them with a little bit delay. Okay, so I'm going to speak slow, and please, if you see that the stream stops, which happens sometimes, let me know. Okay, so I can see you, all right, but I can also see other things. Like for example, here I pinned the Windows 10 settings. Okay, and this is really the Windows 10 settings. Okay, so I can go and see, and those are so-called billboard applications. So you see they have a certain depth. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now I pinned a few other things as well. So here I have our website. Can you see it? Yeah? I can't really turn my head, so okay. And so I can activate it, I can scroll up and down, can see our HoloLens offering, for example. Let's see how the network is working. Yes, seems to be working fine. All right. This is the same video that we just saw. All right. I have Groove Music up here. And as I said, this is connected to my OneDrive. I have all my music on my OneDrive, and so I can stream the music using that. I have the Windows Store here because this is actually a Windows device. And so if I activate it, we can actually load Windows applications. And all the Windows 10 universal applications that you saw on Continuum before work on HoloLens as well. So you can load applications which are made specifically for HoloLens, or you can load applications which are just universal applications. And of course, since this is a Windows Store, we also have access to movie and TV. So let's see what we have here. I believe there is somewhere down there Captain America, so we can go and check it out. All right, and down there is a trailer. Here we go. So basically, I'm just going to start the trailer, and you know what? Since I'm in a movie theater, right, why not make it a lot bigger? All right. Okay, so now I have the cinematic experience, right? So you can turn your living room into a movie theater super easily, right? So those are 2D applications. Now, they're already pretty fascinating per se. But of course, what you all want to see is 3D. So I have a few things. Just need to remember where I put them. Oh, here it is. Now, the really cool thing is that I actually placed those holograms when we came here. What time was it? Like 2 a.m.? 2 p.m.? Jeez. Okay, so at 2 p.m. we were here to do a technical check, or maybe 3, and then I placed those holograms. And the HoloLens actually remembers the room. So if I go back home or I have another room, it will remember the holograms that I have pinned there, okay, which is really fascinating. It knows the rooms. Now I have a few other things. Oh yeah, here's the fish. That's cool. I like that. We can make it way bigger. Ooh. So, all right. fun, huh? Now, that's really just for fun, but look at that guy. So I'm going to start playing.
We're going to go over the squat, clean, and jerk. Squat, clean, and jerk is going to be extreme power from your hips, quads, and glute area. So you'll see me notice when I set up on the bar.
I need to be careful not to walk on him, so maybe we can...
I'm going to put my hands on the side.
Fun stuff, right? Doesn't work? Ah, you didn't tell me. Come on, people. All right. Did I? All of a sudden, thank you. All right, so let's see. So I tried to make it bigger. Now I think it has a little bit problem of streaming. But basically, I made him bigger, and then he was talking, right? And then he was showing me how to lift. So you can imagine how to use that for teaching and training, right? So this is a 360 video, pretty cool per se. Going to remove him so that he doesn't disturb me. Now those holograms are pretty cool by itself, but let me show you a few other applications. So some really nice applications are the ones that are taking advantage of the environment, okay? So I'm going to show you a very simple application. I call it Holo 101. It's an application I'm using to demonstrate how to code for HoloLens. And this application is going to actually take advantage of the environment. So here is a cube. It knows there is a floor. If I pushed it. Okay, now it's on the floor. Add cube. Let's make it fall. Okay, add cube. Cool. Now I can push them, okay? Now what's really interesting is that there is this box there, right? So I'm going to push him a little bit. And now it's kind of, I cannot push further because there is a box, right? So it's blocking. If there was a stage, it would fall from the stage, right? We can do also other things. Add cube. Add cube. Toggle. Toggle. Jeez. Okay. Toggle. No. Toggle. Yeah, I need to make a better voice command for that. Toggle. Okay, so now what I did is that I removed gravity from the cube. So now I can push it, all right? Which is pretty cool. Now here, you see what happened here? It doesn't know that there is a wall because it's a little bit too far. So let's try another direction. Add cube. Now if I push it down, now it's going to bounce, okay? And so I mapped the room pretty well. You see how it bounced off the podium there because it knows there is a podium. I think it knows about the curtains. Okay, it's going down. I still see it, but oops, okay. So you can map the room. Okay, it's going to interact with the room. There is a game which is fascinating on the HoloLens called Fragment. And Fragment is taking advantage of the room. So it's a detective game where basically you play and then it's going to place some clues and you have to find the clues and interact with those. And at some point I wanted to play that, to try it out. And I was sitting at my desk, so I pushed my chair. And then I stand up, and then I start playing the game. And at some point, there was one of the characters was sitting in my chair. And that blew me away, because it knew that there was a surface which was suitable for sitting. And that gives you such an impression of, oh my God, I'm inside the game, right? And by the way, there are also rats which goes between your legs and go and hide in the corner, which is a lot less fun, but that is pretty cool. Now, of course, those applications here are a little bit simplistic. And so at IdentityMine, we program Valorem, we program for those devices also professionally. And so let me show you a couple of things that we do. So one thing is for industrial. So this is a plant that we got directly from a client. So this is a real plant, okay? We got the actual blueprint. I'm going to put it down there. All right. You see those triangles? This is spatial mapping. So basically, it's trying to find out. You see how you look like to HoloLens? A bunch of triangles. So now it's pretty cool because I can go and see the details. All right. I can also interact, scale up, make it bigger. You see the pipe there. I'm going to take it out. And now I can check it out, and then I can also take one of those valves and open the blueprint. And so you can imagine for maintenance how useful that is, right? Because suddenly I have this knowledge of what the device does, what it's used for. And of course, I can also do something else. Scale huge. Scale huge. All right. And now I can walk inside the plant to see what's happening. Cannot climb the stairs yet, but that will be our next exercise, all right? So of course you can imagine using these type of devices in a maintenance scenario, okay, very useful. Another example I can show you, we have a game that is available in the Windows Store. So by the way, if you have a HoloLens, you can already play. And this game is really fun because we are doing things that everybody told us you cannot do. And we didn't believe them. And so what we do here is take a block and you can use your other hand. Oops. It doesn't work. Let's try again. All right, to rotate it. So you're not supposed to use both hands, but nobody told us, so we did it anyway, right? And so you can start playing. And of course, since you can also have HoloLens interact, you can have multiple devices seeing the same scenes. Oops, I missed. You can, of course, 2 people can play the game, right? Not with this version right now, but this is something we are working on. And this is real physics. So if you try to take this one out, it's more difficult, but I will get it. And of course, everything falls down, which is always fun, right? So this is called Tower Blocks. You can already download it in the Windows Store. Another one that we have in the Windows Store is called HoloFlight. HoloFlight is a data visualization system. It's a flight visualization system, but it shows you what you can do with data. Now, we are aggregating data from a large number of sources. We have weather information, we have flight information, we have air traffic control voices, we have terrain, so maps. Now you see how it's mapping the environment, okay? So it's basically measuring to see where it can place the board. And it's going to start. And so you'll see the board. It's representing the Hawaiian island. Let's put it here. Scale up. Scale up. Oops. Scale up. Come on, boy. Scale up. All right. Scale up. All right, a little bit bigger. And now you have planes. Now this is a recording, but we could in the application flick a switch and see the real-time data, real flight information over the Hawaiian island or wherever. All right. Those planes are pretty cool because when we go close, they look like a plane. When we go further down, at some point, I'm not sure if I'm going to reach it. If I go, further inside the side here, we are going to turn to less detail so that we have more performance. So we can also do that. Oops, what happened? I think the application just stopped. Let me restart it. Okay, here we go. So you're going to have level of details, okay? We have information, so I can open those panels. And by the way, I can move those panels around. Like, for example, let's select an airport. This is Molokai Airport, and I have also the information about the wind direction and wind force. I can select a flight and get information about the flight. All right? I can double tap.
2250s with the outside LBFM. Correction, outside settle with that.
2250, you got precious cargo on board, Mike.
Now that is simulated, but imagine what we could do, right? We have services where we can actually access the real-time voice information, okay? We can do a few interesting interactions. For example, zoom in. Oh, it has problems with my voice today. Zoom in. You see the terrain? That's pretty cool. So this is actually Bing Maps data, and then we use a service from NASA to get the elevation, and then we map it. So you can imagine for a pilot who wants to go to a new airport, for example, and see how the terrain looks like. Maybe we can also put some weather. Maybe we can put other information, like, for example, places where they may not fly because you have noise abatement, etc. Zoom in. You see we have multiple levels of details, right? So, you know, amazing what you can do with that. And what is that? It's really a new data visualization system. Okay? So you can take any data you can think of. In that case, we decided to use planes. Why not? But you can really use whatever you want and make it work. So this is HoloLens. I guess that from what I hear, some of you can try it a little bit later. And by the way, since this is a Windows 10 computer, just going to do a little bit of household cleaning here. Let's remove that. Since this is a Windows 10 computer, of course I have Office, right? So I don't even need to remove it. I'm just going to finish the presentation here, because why not? And I probably need to reopen the slides. All right, and let me start the projection. So in conclusion, devices are good. Fear is bad. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? But really what I want you to think about is what you can do with those devices. And in the end, this is what we decide to do with those devices, which is really important, okay? So remember the augmented human, okay? Devices, you can see them as an enhancement. You can use them to do more things than we used to do before, okay? Society is really changing. The future is definitely here today. We have devices now who do things that we couldn't imagine 5 years ago. Wireless accessories, this is all super important. Okay, we still have a lot of cables, but this is going to be less and less in the future. And of course, the social standards are changing. All right. So I hope you like this presentation. I'm going to post the slides for those of you who are interested. And so you can access the slides, for example, on my Twitter. I'm going to post them in the next couple of days. This is my blog and our website. And I hope you like this presentation. And I wish you a very good end of the day and a safe trip back home. Thank you very much.
I can imagine that a couple of people have some questions for Laurent. So who wants to go first? Anybody? Yeah, question over there.
Ooh.
Almost okay.
And this one is real. It hurts when you get it on the head. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, looking at all the devices and all the things going on, and if I look at my parents and, you know, older people or not technology-related people, would you actually say that it's also becoming easier?
To use, you mean?
Well, is it making life easier as a
oh,
whole?
I see what you say, yeah. So the
We have
question
all
is,
these devices,
yeah.
all these possibilities.
Yeah.
Is it really making life easier?
Yeah. So the question is, you know, if you compare life as our parents had it, right, where they didn't have all that, or our grandparents for that matter, is our life easier? Now, I would argue that it's not. And I would argue that we have other problems. And you know the saying, we need a good war, right? And basically now we are exactly in this situation where we kind of invent problems because we didn't have the war. So oh my God, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie broke up. Did you hear? Jesus, you know? So you know what I mean, right? So we kind of also invent that thing's a problem. But that said, the nature of human is to be happy sometimes and unhappy at other times. And so we have devices and we are happy sometimes and we are unhappy at other times. I think that we do more than they used to do. And I think that's really the main difference. I'm not saying it brings us happiness. I know that when I get a package from Amazon, I'm really happy for a moment. But, you know, it's me, right? But yeah, I mean, it's not bringing happiness per se, right? In the end, it's up to us to decide what we do with those devices. And so society is not necessarily changing for the best, but it is changing for sure. And devices are part of that. They are not the whole thing, but they are definitely a part of that. What I think is that for us, and I don't know if all of you are developing software, but a lot of us are in the room, part of our duty as software engineers is to try to make life for people easier, right? And devices are definitely participating into that. And the software we put on it maybe even more, right? So the interface is absolutely relevant. And that's something that we love to do. We are a UX company, a user experience company, and this is really what we do. But no, if I speak with my grandma and she tells me the story of, back then she was, running away from home sometimes at night and taking her bicycle and going 15 kilometers to go dancing with my grandpa, who by then was not even her husband or anything, right? She was 15, 16. I kind of long for that experience, right? Because I never did that. So I guess she was really super happy and she didn't need any device to do that. But on the other hand, I do other things which make me really happy, like jumping on a plane and coming to Amsterdam to talk to you, right? Oh, sorry, I know we are not in Amsterdam, but my hotel is in Amsterdam, so that's why. But you see what I mean, right? So yeah, we do more things probably. Up to us if we decide that we have an easier life or not. I find that I'm doing things right now which would have been impossible for my parents or especially my grandparents. And so in that sense, yeah, my life is a little bit easier, I guess. But it's really more about what we do with the devices, right? And that's a question that we should probably discuss around a beer because, we can't talk the whole night about it, right?
Yeah, you can. Okay.
Sure.
Thanks.